They're putting Chucky back together, and for some reason, they're keeping the same underlying skeleton and just putting all new parts on over it. It's like that one philosophical question. If you take Abe Lincoln's hatchet and replace its head and later replace its handle, is it still Abe Lincoln's hatchet? Is this still our same psychopathic murder doll? Where you at, philosophers? Anyway, this generic-looking CEO arrives and talks to his generic-looking toady about where we are in the series. Andy's mother is in a psychiatric ward and Andy's in foster care. And the reason they're recreating Chucky is to prove to stockholders that there's no problem with the doll and that they can go back to making money. While the technician is putting in the final touches, though, some kind of supernatural force electrocutes him and sends him through a window, giving us our first kill of the movie just 6 minutes into the film. I bet CEO guy is just happy he has one less paycheck to hand out that week. But he's still upset about how this looks and tells his toady Mattson to make it all go away, even micromanaging to tell Mattson exactly how to get rid of the doll. Time to catch back up with Andy, played again by Alex Vincent, who's 2 years older, but still a pretty cute kid. He's in foster care and is being window shopped by Joanne and Phil Simpson. Even though Phil is skeptical because of the whole, killer doll thing, they end up taking him home to this atrociously painted bubblegum house of horrors. Dear Lord, that looks like the single most uncomfortable place for an 8-year-old to be, especially because Phil's such a stickler for rules. Andy reaches his foster sibling Kyle and dresses like he's out with Judy Bunny. I'm actually really into the foster sibling relationship because you don't usually see that. Andy's other new foster sibling is a good guy doll who drops onto his head from the top of his closet. Andy flees in terror, but Phil just uses the opportunity to lay down more rules. Yeah, hey Phil, maybe... See, rule number 1 for you should be don't have good guy dolls booby-trapped in the closet to trigger your new foster child. Back at good guy headquarters, Mattson leaves work in the middle of a thunderstorm and throws Chucky in with the rest of the toys in his back seat. Might not want to get pulled over with all those little kid toys in your car, dude. Looks pretty weird. While he's stopping by a liquor store, Chucky grabs his car phone and calls the foster agency to find out where Andy is. The foster place worker Grace Poole tells Chucky the situation. That seems real messed up, man. And anyone can call up the foster agency and get info on a little kid by using a shitty alias. After Mattson hits the road again, Chucky pulls a gun on him, and he reacts pretty nonchalantly. Dude, there's a possessed doll holding a gun to your head. It sounds like you're answering a phone call from a friend who just hung up. Chucky has him park in an empty lot before taking a plastic bag and wrapping it around his head.
Then it turns into a video.
That's twice in 2 movies. Chucky attacked someone in the backseat of a car. Maybe it's the same bad thing.
And then this is gonna be...
But no, they want Chucky first person runs his way to Andy's new home. Thing Andy was messing around with earlier, then buries his fellow good guy in the backyard. Giving us a good look at the improved animatronics in this movie. And also how they use the top-down forced perspective to have a real person play Chucky, because that is definitely a person in the costume. The next morning, Phil's super pissed about his broken statue and grounds both the kids, giving them some together time, during which Andy shows how X4 he is by taking a drag off Kyle's cigarette. Kyle commiserates with Andy how shitty it is to be a foster kid, a point that's driven home later when Andy overhears Phil talking shit about him in the kitchen. I love that somehow Phil doesn't notice Andy standing right freaking there with the door open. Just imagine yourself in Phil's position. It's very obvious that there's a kid standing behind that door. That night, Chucky gets straight to work, tying up Andy in bed and attempting to get some quality playtime. Oh, that sounds fun. How do you play? Damn it, Chucky, that's the same game.
Oh, they're teaming up.
Stuffing your name on it. Kyle comes home late and interrupts it. It certainly has to look like a strange situation. I bet you think Andy is. The Ruckus like Phil and Joanne. Phil don't like to be aroused like that, and angrily tosses Chucky down into the basement. This gives Chucky a nosebleed, meaning he better get to work on the little boy's body soon. Sorry, crazy. The next day, Andy heads off to school, and Chucky hitches a ride underneath the bus. During recess, while Andy's busy with a rousing game of ball and fence, Chucky finds his homework and vandalizing it so that later, when the teacher Miss Kettlewell is going through them, she gets a nice little personal message. She puts Andy in detention, and when she thinks he wants to play with Chucky, she throws Chucky in the closet and locks him. She also locks Andy in the room, which is like a serious fucking fire hazard lady. So when Chucky scares Andy through the closet peephole, Andy's unable to get out the door and is forced to climb out the window instead. The inhabitant! Kettlewell returns and thinks that the noises coming from the closet is Andy, but she goes to give him a good scold, probably with a yardstick, judging by her lock-em-up methods of punishment. Chucky jumps out and stabs her with an air pump, injecting her with air. Dish out some corporal punishment of his own. Beats her to death with the yardstick for the third kill of the film in a pretty artistic way for a slasher sequel. Each strike of the yardstick pulling the camera out more and more. And you can still see the yardstick going up and down even in this furthest away shot. That's awesome. Phil gets more and more pissed about Andy's behavior, yelling to Joanne that he's not their child. So Kyle comforts Andy and tells him it'll make him stronger and it'll be okay. Andy tells her that's great and all, but he's got bigger problems going on. getting the drop on him, though, knocking him down and fighting with him until Andy's able to reach the carver and hit him with it in his face. Real cautious about what he sees as an unstable little boy holding an electric knife. Chucky trips Phil on the stairs, causing him to fall through the cheap wooden banister, then gives us a one-liner in a nice understated delivery. He drops Phil onto the floor, causing him to break his neck and die. No big deal. While they're waiting for the ambulance to arrive, at least the rest of the family can play a mean game of chess. On his body. Phil's death causes Joanne to finally turn on Andy, so she packs his bag and sends him back to the foster home with Grace Poole, who you could argue is kind of responsible for all this shit in the first place. After tossing Chucky into the trash, Kyle goes for a midnight swing and smoke and kicks up enough dirt to uncover the broken body of the Tommy. Now that she knows Andy wasn't full of shit, she decides she wants to talk to him and hears some ominous sound design going on to Joanne. Turns Joanne's body around to find her dead, her mouth gagged and her throat slit. Sure, it's an obvious death, but I think it's pretty so attacks Kyle and finds around on the back. Grabs her knife and trips her like a bully and takes her hostage so she can drive him to the foster agency so he can take over Andy's body. Her speeder gets her pulled over by a cop before he sees some blood coming out of her. That he tries to truck him with a car, but he Chucky's cracking a few jokes in this one, but he's still mostly serious. Later in the series, these little clips are going to be the entire personality. Already, Chucky and Kyle wind up at the foster agency, where Grace takes them and Andy into her office. Before she can yell at the kids, Chucky whips out the knife and stabs her in the chest. Knocking down the photocopier where her death face gets captured and printed. Yo, I heard you like Dead Grace Face, so we put Dead Grace Face on your Dead Grace Face. As fire trucks respond to the alarm that Chucky pulled, he takes advantage of the chaos and get Andy in the back of the truck, with like, why is this newspaper truck driving through the streets with its freaking back door open? Then papers would be all over those streets, man. Chucky tries to play hide the soul in the back of the truck, but Kyle gets the driver to pull over. Chucky and Andy take off, and Kyle escapes with super pissed off drivers who chase them into the good guy factory, doing a neat little action hero role underneath the golden gate. The final act takes place in the factory, and I think it's a great freaking setting for the film's climax, even if it is kind of lame when Chucky knocks Andy out with a tiny little plastic judo chop. Chucky's still got that incantation infatuation and gets to work saying them creepy words and bringing in the storm clouds. He actually completes the ritual, but apparently it's too late. He's been in the good guy body for too long, and now it looks as though he's stuck in it. Kyle knocks a bunch of boxes onto Chucky, and Andy runs away, meeting back up with Kyle where they both confirm each other's names. With that settled, they run through a maze of good guy boxes that I'm sure some poor production assistant had to make and stack before making their way out and climbing up one of those roller slide things that were always at DZ Discovery Zone. Andy friggin' sucks at it though. No big dude, those things were always difficult to climb. And Chucky pops up to knife his way up the slide in an attempt to catch Andy and kill him. Kyle traps his hand under a gate and Chucky goes full Aaron Ralston to get out, pulling his hand off in a shot with some nice doll gore. Then he gives himself a sort of Ash Williams upgrade, outfitting the knife blade as his new hand. With the assembly line all sorts of fucked up, the technician finally takes notice. Hey yeah, dude, where were you when a couple of kids broke in after he got me the doll? He tries to fix the machine and sets himself up for a very memorable kill. Chucky slashes him with his knife, knocking him down onto the assembly line, where a pair of good guy eyes are planted into his skull. It's unique, bloody, and comical all at once. It is literally the only thing I remembered from this movie until I rewatched it. When Chucky goes to attack the foster kids, Kyle knocks him back and takes him into a platform and takes him up to a little assembly box thing where a bunch of rings are inserted and Chucky strips his lungs out until eventually it spits out a melted heap of Chucky parts and gore. But as the kids walk away, they don't notice the trail of blood showing that Chucky escaped that robot, but he's able to catch them unawares and knock Kyle down with the technician's ghastly-looking body, then wheel his way over to Andy for some good guy fun time stab around. His knife arm gets caught in a grate though, so Andy turns a wrench and causes a lethal amount of molten plastic to spray out, engulfing Chucky and melting him to the floor while a nasty-looking hose wiggles about, looking like a straight-out the dog kennel scene in The Thing. After Andy saves Kyle and they go and check on the Chucky heap though, he comes back to life to attack them some more because that's what he does. Kyle sticks that air hose in his mouth to inflate him like the bad guy in Live and Let Die. His head gets super huge before finally blowing up in spectacular fashion, and with his being reduced to a decapitated bloody plastic mound, Chucky is finally dead in this movie, our 8th and final victim. The movie ends with Kyle and Andy walking off together to no place in particular as the credits start to roll. Sequels usually end up increasing the body count over the original. Did Chucky play by the rules? Let's find out and get to the numbers. Counting Chucky, 8 people die in Child's Play 2, which is 2 more than in the original. Of those 8, 5 of the victims were male and 3 were female, a more even gender distribution than we had last time. At a runtime of 83 minutes, that comes out to a kill on average every 10.38 minutes, a bit quicker than the Child's Play. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to the good guy factory technician. The image of that dude with his eyes replaced literally stuck with me my entire life. Probably always will. I love it. Doll machete for lamest kill will have to go to Phil Simpson. Should have made it a house wolf bill, no falling off the stairs and breaking the neck. And that's it. Child's Play 2 was released 2 years after the original, and Universal was so eager for sequels that the third movie came out just 9 months after this one. I'm actually going to pause this franchise for a second, though, to do the mini-series for CBC's Hit, in honor of the new movie coming out. That's next week, and until then, I'm James A. Janice. Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we return to our favorite killer doll with Child's Play 2.
Cover with go under his tunnel here.
Child's Play 2. Well, the second film took place contemporaneously in 1990. Child's Play 3 jumps forward 8 years ago, 1998, with Andy now a teenager at a military academy trying to get over his traumatic past. The film was directed by Jack Bender, who would go on to direct some of the most iconic episodes in 2 of my favorite shows, Lost and Game of Thrones. But even his able direction isn't enough to make this movie all that interesting. Child's Play 3 is mostly a retread of what we've already seen in the first movie, with Chucky sliding even further into self-parody with increasingly comical one-liners, adding a bunch of very stereotypical characters like the nerdy friend, the badass love interest, and the abusive drill sergeant, and there's just not a lot of interesting stuff going on here. But whether it's a good Chucky movie or a bad Chucky movie, you know Chucky's gonna be doing one thing for sure, and that's killing people. So let's get to the kills. The movie begins in the good guy factory, and I guess in 8 years nobody bothered to clean up the mess from the climax of the second film. We're finally getting around to it now, though, sweeping up doll parts and using a crane to take care of that Chucky mouth. Because hell if those underpaid janitors are going to touch that thing in the air. Too bad the crane punctures the body and causes Chucky's blood to run out, so when it's moved over a vat of plastic, a bunch of it seeps in and starts to bubble, toiling trouble. The swirling blood takes us into the title card, and the opening credits play against some cool, grippy effects on a black background. We cut to a dim, smoky boardroom where good guy executives, that's, executives at the good guy company, not executives who are like briefly go over the events of the generic-looking CEO for part 2, Mr. Sullivan. He wants the good guy dolls to go back on the market now that the hubbub surrounding Andy Barkley and murder doll acquisition has finally settled down.
Andy Barkley.
Sullivan's replacement Cody gets him with the first new good guy doll off the assembly line. And I bet you can guess what kind of factory defect it has. Oh, and in case you were thinking, like I was, that a blood-infected vat of plastic would produce multiple murderous reincarnations of Chucky, apparently Mancini wanted to do the same thing, but couldn't because of budgetary restrictions. And so, bound by the metric of ROI, we instead just get a singular incarnation of Chucky who escapes from his box when Sullivan isn't looking. Sullivan goes to watch TV, and it seems like the anchor was just waiting for him to turn it on so he could talk. Well, despite a downdraft in the bond market, dude's all like, finally, I can speak! And then Chucky turns it off and starts messing with Sullivan, sending him with marbles and sending a whole bunch of remote control systems. Then he sets up a pair of good guy dolls to talk to each other. He finally shows himself openly by knocking Sullivan down with a little
you got?
We got nothing. We got a title. Wombo, who wrote and directed Kick-Ass 2 in 2013, was a good choice for the project. His feature film debut, 2005's Cry Wolf, was also about a bunch of college kids playing a game that turned deadly, as discussed on the Dead Meat podcast a while back. In his meeting with Vlog, Wombo came up with the opening scene on the spot and wrote the rest of the movie with a writer's room that included Michael Wright and married writing partners Jillian Jacobs and Chris Rose. And it all started with an executive saying, make a movie with the title Truth or Dare. Not exactly a passion project, you know? Lucy Hale plays Olivia Barrett, a do-gooder college student who would be spending her spring break building houses with Habitat for Humanity, if not for her longtime best friend, Marky.
I unsigned you up. What? Yeah, I told Habitat.
Damn, Marky, nothing with light plans. Anything for a party, I guess. Marky and their roommate Penelope are woo girls to the max, and are just fine coercing Olivia onto their Mexico trip, along with Penelope's boyfriend Tyson and their friend Brad. Marky's boyfriend Lucas is also coming along, and is happy to see Olivia joining them, but perhaps not as happy as she is to join him. With 3 cheers for youth, the kids take off for an opening credits sequence showing them driving into Mexico and living an Instagram life. Or a Snapchat life? I don't know, man. Whatever it is, it involves a whole bunch of alcohol and horniness.
Olay! Oh, I want to lay you. Let's go back to the talking.
The footage for this sequence was filmed by the cast themselves during a trip to Rosarito Beach in Mexico, which they went on a week before production began so they could all bond together.
And we had a crazy night.
To really cement the bonding, the cast even played Truth or Dare. Everyone except Lucy Hale.
They were all in the hot tub. Lucy's got a bedtime, and it was past Lucy's bedtime, so I didn't play, actually.
On the last night of their dancing sexy times vacation, Olivia is chatting with Lucas when she sees Marky grinding on another dude. What, right behind him? Sounds like it's nothing new, though. Marky is a serial cheater, and Olivia's always bailing her out. At the bar, Olivia runs into a classmate named Ronnie, who's one of those sex pest types. So when a handsome stranger named Parker interjects on Olivia's behalf, Ron backs down to go take some shots.
I can't say no to shots. Everyone knows that. Don't leave not to what you said.
Carter hits it off with Olivia, and after the bar closes, he suggests to her friends that they head to a super cool secret spot to keep the party going. He leads them all to an old abandoned church, where inside he points to the blue and lights and pyramid. I've not been here this whole time. Also, somehow, Ron appears out of nowhere.
You can't keep going around from the party.
That's a scientific fact. Carter suggests they play a game of Truth or Dare as a way to discover each other's secrets and make their friends do things they don't want to. Does it? Why is Tyson responding like this is the first time the game's ever been explained to him? They agree to play. The game was a goddamn movie. After a quick selfie, Olivia's the first up to bat. She picks Truth, and Brad asks her if she'd rather save the lives of everyone in Mexico or the lives of everyone in this room. Utilitarian, humanitarian.
Oh, let's go.
Mexico.
I love you, but millions of people? Come on. It's the only right answer.
Alcohol continues to lubricate the game.